What everyone knew, that toxic exposure from burn pits caused all kinds of cancers and other diseases. That was so wrong. The indignity, the callousness of forcing veterans who got sick as they were fighting for us because of exposure to these toxins to have to fight for years in the VA to get the benefits they deserved.
Now, Congress is planning to make big changes starting in just a few weeks. The low-income households could be set to qualify for a new type of relief. If you're struggling to pay necessities for rent, you may be eligible to receive a bonus check worth up to $500. And now 20 states have already failed to raise the minimum wage above the federal $7.25 an hour standard. 16 everybody have more than 12% of their children living in poverty. And anti-poverty advocates say that it's a sign there's an urgent need for lawmakers to increase the funding and do more to help struggling families. Congress had the opportunity to achieve the latter by expanding the child tax credit before the end of the year, but lawmakers just didn't arrive at a deal with Republicans to include it in a spending bill. Some say that raising the minimum wage would not lead to as fast or drastic of an improvement. However, according to analysis, in 2019, increasing the amount to $15 an hour would lift more than 500,000 people out of poverty, and the Economic Policy Institute estimated in 2021 that if Congress passed a $15 minimum wage increase by 2025, up to 4 million people wouldn't even have to live in poverty, 1.3 million of those being children. But there are lawmakers in Congress that want to continue to send families monetary relief checks. So far, Congressman Adam Schiff has sent a letter, and he's urging the House to extend the expanded child tax credit as soon as possible. The child tax credit monthly payments are used by millions of families in California and across the country to pay for necessities including food, rent, and educational expenses. This American Rescue Plan has actually critically expanded its reach and benefits folks, increasing monthly checks and the number of eligible recipients by removing an earnings requirement that kept the lowest income families from claiming the full credit. But so far, between July and December, child poverty was slashed by nearly 40% to reach a record low of 5.2, and now 3 million people were lifted out of poverty in a single month. But Congress has put nearly 10 million children nationwide at risk of the program. Folks, this is bad because with Congress divided, advocates are turning to states to bolster benefits for workers and families, and the Democrats attempt to pass 4 weeks of paid federal family leave to fall apart in the U.S. Senate, leaving a patchwork of rules for workers and businesses to navigate across. The state-by-state nature of this is pretty dangerous. Of the rules means that millions of Americans, millions of families are in need of help, and it means that something should be done sooner than later, because now, as of this year, 13 states, including D.C., have passed some paid family leave program. 14 states and D.C. have enacted the paid sick leave program, but an estimated 28 million workers still have no guaranteed paid sick time.
The great Frances Perkins, FDR's labor secretary, once said, "A government should aim to give all the people under its jurisdiction the best possible life." That's it. That's the job. That's what we're here to do. And I cannot stand here and say we're done yet. Because even though we've set the table for what should be the most prosperous time in New York history, if New Yorkers don't feel safe in their communities, if they can't afford to buy a home or pay their rent, then the dream stays out of reach for them. And we're already seeing signs of outmigration that we can no longer ignore, something I know all too well from growing up in Western New York, at times when jobs were so hard to find. We cannot let that happen again. But the good news is, it does not have to be that way. What I'll discuss today is a broad overview of key policies that will make New York more affordable, more livable, and safer. So let me tell you just how we plan to do that. My number one priority has always been and always will be keeping New Yorkers safe. And a day has not gone by where I've not been laser focused on this objective.
is receiving Social Security, they're not going to see that impact in their checks until January of the new year. But this is going to help a lot of folks really, truly get through these high inflationary times. As we just heard from Caleb and Brian, 8.2%. We are not seeing inflation decline just yet. It is, as Caleb was putting it, sticky high still. And so right now we're seeing a lot of folks, but particularly those Americans that are on a fixed income, really struggling to buy groceries or pay for gas or electricity. So this is definitely going to go.
The Secretary of Finance has also said that to apply, residents must provide valid Social Security numbers, Delaware residential mailing addresses, and active identification cards as well. This bill was meant to be passed by lawmakers in April. The money is meant to help offset the cost of living increase in the state as brought by inflation. Residents of Idaho have until the end of the year to apply for the rebate, up to $300 that is, and $600 for joint filers. Not only that, but in order to qualify for the rebate, Idaho people must have been a full-year resident for 2020 and 2021, and file their 2020 and 2021 individual income tax as well. The amount one will receive varies due to one's financial status. Idaho State Legislature and the governor approved a rebate package in September during a special session at the state legislature. It was part of a larger billion-dollar piece of legislation that included tax cuts, education spending, and other initiatives. The governor's office noted that the rebate could give people affected by inflation some financial relief. According to the Idaho State Tax Commission, some 800,000 rebates worth $500 million are estimated to be sent out by the end of March. State tax authorities started sending out the rebates in late September and have plans to dole out even more payments as additional residents qualify. The Idaho State Tax Commission said that rebates can come via direct deposit or as a check in the mail, but any outstanding tax payments due to the state will be deducted from the final rebate by tax authorities. Now, if you're an Idaho resident, you can use the Where's My Rebate tool to track the status of your check. Nancy Pelosi has long been known for her ability to rally Democratic lawmakers to get tough votes for important pieces of bills. Nancy Pelosi, who has led the House Democratic caucus since 2003, was widely expected to step down from her role next year to make way for a new generation. Now the results of the midterms have altered the calculus, at least for some Democrats, as the party could potentially retain an incredibly slim majority after all the results are tallied. According to the sources familiar with the situation, Pelosi has been contacted by several members who have asked her to remain in her role in the new Congress. So even if the party falls short of retaining its current majority, pointing to her success in maintaining a party discipline. Drew Hamill, Pelosi's spokesman, did not have a timeline for any announcements from the lawmaker. Hamill said in a statement, "The Speaker will make an announcement when she makes an announcement, and to control the House, a party has to secure 218 out of 435 total seats." So according to Insider, as of November 12th, Republicans have won 210 seats, while Democrats have claimed 198 seats. Democrats currently control the House 220 to 212. Republicans last controlled the lower chamber in January when they ceded their majority in the Democratic Party after losing seats in 2018 and the midterms. Pelosi led the chamber from 2007 to 2011 and regained the House's Speaker's gavel in 2019. So, let's see what President Biden does about this.
The CHIPS and Science Act is not handing out blank checks to companies. I've directed my administration to be laser focused on the guardrails that will protect taxpayers' dollars. We'll make sure that companies partner with unions, community colleges, technical schools to offer